everybody, and welcome to the Empowering Industry podcast. I'm your host, Charlie Matthews, and I have had such an amazing summer journeys all over. My trip to Europe was phenomenal, so inspiring. And, coming back and having reliable plant and being in that maintenance and reliability world, it really is just touching to be able to meet with people and share their stories. And so today, no different. Jon Todd is with us, and I'm excited to hear from you, Jon, and just really tell everybody kind of who you are and what you do today. And we're definitely going to go into the backstory there too.
Oh, you betcha. So yeah, thanks for having me. Always enjoy, meeting other folks out in the industry, and especially enjoy the podcast format. It's always a lot of fun. So at the moment, I work for a company called Total Resource Management. I'm what they call a senior business consultant, which kind of amounts to I'm the middleman between the technical side of things and the sales and marketing and customer interaction side. So I kind of wear a number of different hats in the current company. Total Resource Management has been around for well over 30 years. And our focus has always been with IBM Maximo, enterprise enterprise asset management suite of applications. And over the last couple of years, we've expanded into SAP. We're also representing AspenTech, MTEL, and such. And so we've been growing as a company, not only technically as far as our products go, but also the services that we have been that we offer as well. So it's a lot of fun. I really enjoy it. I've been here for 9 years now. And so this looking forward to the good things in the future. So
Yeah, and it does. You are very technical, so I kind of went back and looked at your start, and it's electrical and electronic engineering. Is that, did I
hmm
get that right?
Yep.
Tell us a little
Yep.
bit about that and why did you get into engineering?
Oh my goodness. Yeah. So I had all excuse me, always as a kid, fixing something, tearing something apart, right, was always very intrigued with electronics and such. And so yeah, I went off to school and got my electronics engineering degree, hardware, basically, designing circuit boards and stuff. And ever since college, I have always worked for software companies. So, so I used to laugh at my friends that were going the software track. It's like, well, all you do is type stuff into the computer screen. You don't actually build anything. What fun is that? And so, yeah, now, many years later, they're laughing at me, going, "See, we told you, software is the way to go." So that's where it all began.
Yes, and I just think that we don't know our journey when we start off, right? We just
Right.
make sure that we're looking at something that interests us, that we're, the skill set is there, but it can shift and change even within our companies. And so I love to see that. I also just, you've got some really interesting jobs kind of throughout your career around that software, a lot around kind of space, Air Force. Tell us a little bit about that journey, and that's very intriguing, and so I'm curious.
Oh, sure. Yeah, so I had started out, believe it or not, back in the day when laser printers were a new thing. Okay. So since I understood what parallel ports and serial ports were all about, they hired me as the tech support person. And then that worked its way to actually spending some time doing some technical writing. I was actually writing user manuals and such for telephone key systems. So that was a couple of years of being an expert at how to transfer calls and dial extensions and such. It was a lot of fun. But then I made a jump into the true software industry, and I worked for another IBM business partner. It was a data mirroring software. We mirrored data transactions between AS400s, the IBM AS400s. And that was really interesting because the transactions we were mirroring were high volume transactions for some of the major corporations in the U.S., the banking system, the gaming industry in Las Vegas and such also used our software. So there I spent a lot of time basically traveling the world training our business partners on how our software worked and such. So that was a lot of time on the road internationally and such. And then I got into reliability engineering. I worked for a software company that built some reliability engineering analysis tools, and that was my real step into reliability and maintainability, availability, and such. And so I worked the tech support group there in the reliability software. And then the really fun step was one of our customers, the folks out of the Deep Space Network, out there with the Jet Propulsion Labs. They said, "Hey, John, you want a reliability engineer job?" Because they were one of our customers. And how do you tell the Deep Space Network no, right? It's like, sure, I'll be there. And so that was a lot of fun. I mean, just the mission itself, doing reliability studies to make sure that the antennas were going to be available, during the missions and the planetary encounters, and assuring the mission management people that, yep, your communication systems are going to be just fine, and here's the numbers to prove it. So,
Wow. I mean,
yeah.
and what a task and just the pressure of that job for one. I was just thinking about kind of your journey, and you have been training people along the way. So
Hmm.
being able to break things down and make them simple where people can understand probably added to kind of helping with understanding something so complex. It just I mean, I don't know you that well, John, but that's what I
Right.
picked up on is that you do like to train people. And I do want to talk a little bit about kind of what you're doing today to train. But let's continue that journey. So you're in reliability space as a reliability engineer. And
Right.
then what was your next step?
Yeah. So, did that for quite a while. And then I had always wanted to live in Colorado. For some reason, as a kid, I mean, I had a few aunts and uncles that kind of lived out there for a while. And I had an opportunity within the same company to move out there and to kind of take another step up career-wise. And so I moved out there to work what they call the sensor contract, which was an Air Force missile defense type contract, and I was their mission assurance manager, which amounted to maintaining our ISO registration, our CMMI certification, and such. A lot of quality assurance, quality control, a lot of documentation, project management, that sort of thing, and did that for a few years, and then I started to kind of look around. So there must be, some other things I can do. Did a lot of proposal writing for them for a while, and that was always interesting. Was to, translate all the good things that you'd done on a contract over the last however many years, into a proposal to say, yeah, we're still that good and we want the business still. So that was interesting. But then I had a friend of mine that I worked with at Deep Space Network who was looking for, I need a reliability engineer. I need someone who knows Maximo and such. And so I contacted him and said, yeah, I want to get back into that world. And so, yep, they hired me. That was about just over 9 years ago now when that happened and such. So definitely a testimony to maintaining your LinkedIn network.
Yes,
So,
absolutely. And we definitely have some commonalities there about networking, sharing content. So I'm curious,
yeah.
you have this wealth of knowledge, expertise. I've definitely wanted to ask you about Six Sigma and lean manufacturing and like
Mm,
seeing that come into play. Like I'm not sure exactly when that started, but definitely throughout your career,
right.
I feel like you touched that along the way. What Tell me a little bit about how working as a reliability engineer and seeing that like lean manufacturing come in and the tools that we have now versus when
Right.
you started.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, so the Lean Six Sigma, my career as a black belt, that did start at Deep Space Network. They had a program to train people up, through the white belt, green belt, and then ultimately black belt. And which I finished that. And then I took that experience over into the that Air Force contract. So the bottom line with the Lean Six Sigma, to me, there's two pieces to it that really help anybody, and as well as help an organization. One is the understanding of how to analyze data, how to take a look at data of any kind. And, what does it mean? What is it telling me? What are the trends? What is it not telling me? And certainly the Lean Six Sigma has enough statistics tools that they teach you how to use and such that are just helpful across the board. I with the role I have now, I'm always looking at, customer transactional data, like, work orders and work history and things like that. And because of that Lean Six Sigma experience, I can look at the data sets and say, oh, yeah, so your average looks about this. And, you kind of get that feel for the data, right? And then you can, do, real analysis and with real tools and, have much more accurate, outcome there. And then the other side is, of course, just, process efficiency. Quite often we walk into customers that, well, how do you start your work? How do you identify your work, and what's your process look like? And 47 steps later, they're done. And the question is, well, maybe maybe you can do that in 13 steps, right? Maybe 14 steps. Let's take a look. How can we make that more efficient? And so I really, appreciate those Lean Six Sigma tools and the process efficiency side. And again, I use them every day for customers and even with, internally within the company. So,
Well, I knew I could tell, and I think that technical side that you have, that expertise and that the knowledge of being in there doing the work, and then this shift from technical to, let's call it, I don't there's some technical aspects to it too, so I can't say that, but shifting from behind the scenes to in front, using social media and YouTube, which I do believe is a social media channel,
mhm.
to get that content out and to teach, because I really believe that is part of what you're doing, that behind the scenes driving you is teaching other people. So tell us what you're
Sure.
doing online.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So I have to give credit to both of my parents. They were both public school teachers and were very effective at, especially raising me, at communicating different concepts through life there. And I was really shocked in college. I was a very, very quiet, pretty shy person, typical story, right? Um, but when I got to my technical writing class in college, it was one of the few classes I got an A in. I go, I know how to write. Why? No, I had no idea. Well, that translated into some documentation jobs and things like that. And then at the one company that was doing the data mirroring, they had a new product that came out. And what we used to do is we would schedule out the developers to go do training classes. We'd have the agenda and such, and then they go do it. And I said, well, why can't we learn this stuff? So that's where I started learning whatever the product was, whatever the technology was, to then be able to write about it intelligently and then ultimately be able to go teach it, right? So, fast forward 18 years and I'm doing even more of that kind of thing. Um, I spend a lot of time researching our products and other products that we represent to, then translate that into articles and videos and, and training classes. We certainly do a lot of those. And then, articles for conferences and such. So I'm doing the same thing that I did 20 some years ago, just on a larger scale and different media, which is exciting as well. So
Absolutely. And it's so important to understand. So I think that you taking that initiative to, this may not be your job, but I'm going to learn
right.
all I can learn about
Hmm.
this. It leads to more opportunities. I think that's definitely true for, being a part of a media company and, over the years, trying to just learn everything I could know about pumps and knowing that,
Right.
I don't want to be, you don't want me working on them. That might be dangerous, but just as much knowledge as I could, sitting through the courses and the classes so that I could understand,
Right.
and just enough. I always say just enough to be dangerous, but just
Mhm.
enough to be able to share that content and know that it is right, that it is on point, and what's important to people. What do they need to know?
right. Yeah, it's very true because as you encounter different customers and such, if you stay, there are times, different career paths you need to stay very technical, behind the scenes and such. And we have people at TRM that are like that. Um, but then there's those folks that they can walk into a paper mill, they can walk into a utility plant, they can walk into um, an IT, data center of some kind. And it's as if they have worked in those industries for many years, right? And that's one of the things that I enjoy is being able to have a conversation with somebody in a completely different industry, but we're still talking about pumps and motors and valves and control systems and all that. And while there may be nuances, at least you have that foundational knowledge to be able to have an intelligent conversation, yeah,
Absolutely. Now,
with
I
folks.
know that data centers, you brought that up, and I know that is a kind of a hot topic for people trying to get
Mhm.
into the market. Just from your standpoint, kind of what do we need to know about that?
Right. So your typical data center is a ginormous cooling system, basically, right? Lots of open space, lots of computers, and it's really yes, it's about the computers for sure, but it's really more about the facility side. It's a ginormous HVAC system. There's a lot of technology involved there. And of course, the reliability of the power source, right? Oftentimes, yes, they're on the grid, but they also have, banks of diesel generators as backups and such. So you may look at it as, oh, it's an IT operation or it's a software type thing. Well, yeah, but mainly it's a facility. So someone who is has a background or an interest in facilities management, right? That's an aspect of it that the data centers are, largely, more than just an IT, thing. So
Yes, I got to
think
walk.
about.
I got to walk just as they were in construction of a building, kind of seeing
Mhm.
this room, and I just thought of how much damage would happen if water did get in there,
Oh, right,
and the
right.
security of that. So, I mean, we all understand like if we drop our phone in the water, and maybe not as much now. They've put some protections in, but we've all
Right.
stuck it in a rice bag before. But on a larger scale, looking at that and seeing, all the protections have to go in because this is so important, especially if those computers are running some critical equipment.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. And you get into other facilities where, the computer systems themselves provide are a very critical role maybe for manufacturing, right? Maybe for systems control or backup and such. So, yeah, there's definitely IT, networking and computers and all that. Definitely still growing and lots of opportunity there. But keep in mind that the facilities around that equipment is equally important. Like you said, damage from flooding and weather and things like that. So definitely a lot of career opportunities just on that side as well. So
Absolutely. Well, for our engineers out there, you've got this different path. Starting at electrical, and then, I mean, you have to understand mechanical and other aspects as
right.
far as your business has grown and what you're doing today. You do have this consultant role. So,
Mm,
how are you able to kind of take that knowledge and share it on the consulting side?
sure. So the first thing you have to do as an engineer is turn on your camera. Okay. Comb your hair and uh, the probably the biggest thing is to really kind of practice or pay attention to how you speak, right? And slow down, try to get rid of okay? And actually, I mean, I've had to kind of learn how to have conversations with people, and sometimes difficult folks, sometimes people who know more than me, sometimes people who don't, and I'm trying not to be too much of a bully, if you will. But it's that Yeah, I don't have like any one particular thing, but it's kind of getting outside of yourself, maybe uh, put yourself on the other side, right, of the camera, if you will, talking to the person, um, and kind of getting beyond the technology, getting beyond what you're talking about, right? Asking questions, not assuming, finishing people's sentences, things like that. I mean, these are all basic things. But as an engineer, that personality, very knowledgeable, very detailed, and can also be a bit of a roadblock to communicating, teaching, consulting. You mentioned that, so.
Yeah, well, you have to be able to show both, and that's the balance of it, right? That you
Hmm.
are knowledgeable, but you respect the room, that you can learn from others, and so it is a good balance. And so, I mean, what you're talking about is communication.
Right.
Definitely, in the world of Zoom and technology meetings,
Mm.
we've got to be present and
Yeah.
as best that we can. That eye to eye contact is really really important, and so that's great advice for our engineers. Okay. So, John, if people want to kind of follow along with you, what's the best way for them to get in touch with you and kind of see the content that you're putting out?
Oh, sure. So yeah, certainly on LinkedIn, I'm pretty easy to find there. John Q Todd. The Q stands for Quentin. That was my grandfather's first name, so I always appreciated that. So, of course, at TRM, the company's website is trmnet.com. It's an interesting URL. But you can always get a hold of me, john.todd@trmnet.com as well. And then, of course, the TRM YouTube channel, of course, like, subscribe, and ring that bell, right? Uh,
Absolutely.
yep,
Absolutely.
yep. So the TRM YouTube channel is uh, is the one that I'm having a lot of fun with, putting the videos together and things there. So yeah, any of those three ways would be a good way to find me. So.
Awesome. Okay. Well, I can't let you go without a little rapid fire.
Sure.
What is your favorite book?
Oh, favorite book is Blink.
Blank.
Yes. And I
Okay.
believe the author was Pink.
Okay.
So,
Awesome. We'll
yep.
look that up.
Yep.
And what about music?
Kind of a classic rock guy, 80s-ish
It's
kind
coming
of thing.
back. It's everybody's the rave. What about the best advice that you've ever received?
Ask questions.
Very good, very good. And then for our young engineers out there, what advice would you give them?
Turn your camera on. Slow down, and ask questions.
I love it. Well, John, thank you so much for reaching out and just it's been a pleasure. You're definitely a thought leader in the space. I'm excited for people to get to know you and learn from you. And just that journey for everybody to understand that journey as an engineer can shift and move and grow. And so I just love that. John, thank you again for being here.
Great. Thank you. I appreciate your time. So thank you, Charlie.
Awesome. And so, everybody, make sure you like, subscribe, share this episode. And until next time, be empowering.